Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 402, Like a Meowth to a Flame. The episode begins with Ash and the gang on the ship from the end of last episode, and they can now see Evergrande City in the distance after having to actually go through a storm that we saw off screen, and also technically a goddamn storm because of all the bullshit they had to go through with Wailord last episode. But anyways, they could finally see Evergrande City in the distance, including the stadium where the Evergrande Conference would take place. Much to Ash's excitement, he was obviously very excited to get to the Hoenn League. And in order to hype himself up, he imagined all the potential super strong opponents he would fight in the Hoenn League, such as a Machamp, a Swampert, an Aggron, which reminded him of Steven's Aggron, a Blaziken, and also a Tropius. Because Ash had apparently read about a Tropius in his Pokédex before the league started or some shit, because he hasn't seen one before, but it was in the visions. Ash thought he was ready for the Evergrande Conference, but on the other hand, he also knew that you could never have too much training, so he knew he had some serious training to do, and was happy because there was still a week till the league actually started, so he could get a lot more training in. May, however, stated that there was something more important to do as opposed to training, explaining that she wanted to go visit somewhere. Ash and the gang asked where, leading May to state that she wanted Champion's food, chicken noodle soup, and she envisioned it in her mind, which confused Max, Brock, and Ash. How the fuck was soup Champion's food, man? Anyways, we then see none other than Team Rocket, who were following Ash and the gang and spying on them with the Magikarp submarine's periscope. Yeah, that's right, they fixed the Magikarp sub once again, and were spying. James and the elf weren't spying very well, though, since they were too tired and were complaining about how they had spent a lot of time in the submarine, and they were getting also tired from doing constant pedaling. James was so exhausted that he suggested that Team Rocket take some time to rest, but Jessie immediately screamed at James in anger for this, saying that if they stopped now, then they would miss their chance at trying to steal something from Ash and the gang, pointing out how they had almost arrived at Evergrande City. And she also stated that they would be able to steal better than usual once in Evergrande City, since Ash and the gang would be so excited to be there that they could get distracted. James and Meowth admittedly got a little excited by this, so when Jessie ordered them to keep pedaling, they did. Back with Ash and the gang. Meanwhile, back with Ash and the gang, Ash still wanted to do some immense training, even though they had just entered Evergrande City and were walking through the streets that were filled with numerous people and numerous merchandise stands, likely set to capitalize on all the people that were going to come in for the league. While Ash and the gang were looking for a place to train, though, May soon took over and was still set on doing some sightseeing in order to find some chicken noodle soup. Apparently, her stomach was basically calling for her to find it, and it was not just any chicken noodle soup, it was known as Evergrande Noodle Nosh. Just then, May had a strike of luck as she managed to find, just sitting in the street, a pamphlet that served as a restaurant guide of all the restaurants in Evergrande, and also had a little section about the Hoenn League as well, but May didn't care about that. She cared about the food part. Ash asked if he and May could compromise. They could go to the restaurant that she wanted to go to get this chicken noodle soup that she wanted to get, but after that, they would go to register for the Hoenn League, although May declined, too focused on just finding her goddamn chicken noodle soup right now. And May got even more excited when she read in her restaurant guidebook of Evergrande that the restaurant that supposedly had the chicken noodle soup that she wanted was one of the best places to eat in all of Hoenn. And she admitted that while it wasn't a fancy restaurant, the restaurant itself seemed quite tasty, since upon seeing the restaurant's menu, she noticed a whole bunch of other food that she liked as well. And she then showed some of these different foods to Ash and the gang inside of the little pamphlet of the restaurant she'd gotten that featured little interviews with a whole bunch of food connoisseurs who were experts at reviewing gourmet food, and they all said that all this food was fucking awesome. And this made May super excited to try one of the best foods in Hoenn, as she happily walked away looking for it, leaving Brock, Ash, and Max behind, forcing them to fucking run as fast as they could to catch up, confusing them as to why May was so excited to just buy some goddamn food. Eventually, Ash and the gang make it into an alley that May had apparently thought the restaurant was located in, according to the pamphlet, but the restaurant was nowhere to be found. In fact, the entire alleyway they went into was entirely deserted, so Max asked May if she was absolutely sure that the restaurant was in a place as deserted as this, and May assured Max that it was there, and stated that if they just walked a little farther, they would even find other shops as well. But Max, Brock, and Ash expressed their doubts at this, telling May that there appeared to be nothing at all down this alleyway. Ash, Max, and Brock then started to argue with May about how if they wanted to find the restaurant, they should go somewhere else, although May denied this, and since Ash and the gang were so distracted with their argument, they didn't notice that they were being watched by an entire flock of Murkrow. Ash and the gang eventually did stop arguing, but they were now focusing all their attention on May's little pamphlet, trying to see if May misread the directions, with Brock taking the closest look, since Ash and the gang trusted Brock the most. But as Brock was reading the pamphlet, one of the Murkrow came down and grabbed it. This Murkrow being the leader of the Murkrow flock, and soon enough, before Ash and the gang could try and get the book back, all the other Murkrow come down and start pecking relentlessly on Ash and the gang, and Ash and the gang cry out, commenting on how huge the beaks of these Murkrow were, but then Ash got an idea, remembering how Murkrow were flying types, so Pikachu's Thunderbolt should be super effective. And sure enough, when Pikachu used Thunderbolt, all the Murkrow flew away. Well, for like 2 seconds, because 2 seconds after this, the Murkrow then appeared again, coming even faster at Ash and the gang, and pecking once again. So Pikachu uses Thunderbolt again, and this gets rid of those Murkrow, but then even more Murkrow come fucking in, and this was just too much for Pikachu, man. He was overwhelmed, but thankfully, in a Deus Ex Machina moment, a shadowy figure leaped out from the distance, fury swiping the Murkrow away, causing them to fly away for real this time. And once the Murkrow were gone, and Ash and the gang weren't focused on being pecked to death, Ash and the gang noticed that the shadowy figure that had just saved them was a Meowth wearing boots and a hat. Obviously, Ash and the gang was shocked as hell to see a fucking Meowth in boots and a hat, because Pokemon weren't supposed to wear clothes, and the only thing they could think of was this being a weird fucking disguise for Meowth or some shit, like Team Rocket's Meowth, because that's really the only Meowth they had ever encountered. But just then, right as the Murkrow returned yet a fucking again, because they're just so relentless and such cunts, a random trainer came in, seemingly the Meowth's trainer, as he commanded it to use another Fury Swipes, which actually dealt with the Murkrow for real this time. They flew off for the last time. The trainer of the Meowth then introduced himself as Tyson, and Ash and the gang thanked him for his assistance. Tyson assured Ash and the gang that it was no stress on him, but right as he was saying this, he then noticed May's pamphlet laying on the ground, because, the Murkrow had dropped it. Upon seeing the pamphlet, Tyson realizes two things. One, Ash and the gang must have been heading to the same restaurant that he was, because he was heading towards there as well, and he also realized that someone must have been competing in the Evergrande Conference, since there was that part of the pamphlet that had the part of the Evergrande Conference on it, and asked if there was anyone participating in the Evergrande Conference, leading Ash to happily jump up, exclaiming that he was. And right as he said this, Tyson revealed that he was competing in the league as well. So Tyson decided to hang out with Ash and the gang for a little while to get to know someone else who was entering the Evergrande Conference, and also he figured that they might as well hang out because they were heading to the same restaurant anyways, and he was also able to successfully direct Ash and the gang to the location of the restaurant, which they had failed to get to on their own. Once they were inside the restaurant, eating the delicious food that May had wanted to eat for so long, Tyson commented on how small of a world the world was, since he and Ash both planned to enter the Evergrande Conference, and they were both eating at the same restaurant, and noted that because of their similarities, and the fact that they were both competing in the Evergrande Conference, they were officially rivals, which Ash agreed to, excited to have a new rival. May was too busy enjoying her meal to talk, but Brock decided to compliment Tyson's Meowth, admitting that it had been well trained, which was evident after he saw its performance against the Murkrow. And the rest of the gang agreed with what Brock said, while the chef at the restaurant cooked some more food. Anyways, Brock then stated his belief that if his Meowth was so well trained, then Tyson and Meowth probably had a bond that was close to the bond that Ash had with Pikachu, and turned his attention to both Tyson's Meowth and Ash's Pikachu, who seemed to be getting along pretty well, as they were eating food together from separate bowls. Tyson then thanked Ash and the gang for the compliments, especially Brock. And then, Tyson finally noticed his Meowth actually eating from a bowl of Brock's custom Pokemon food. Tyson was utterly amazed by Brock because of this, stating that his Meowth was a real tough one to please, and a real picky eater, so the fact that he was eating Brock's shit was pretty fucking cool. And he continued to gas Brock up, calling him a great chef. Tyson then mentions that he and his Meowth had been training together for so long that his Meowth was powerful enough to evolve into a Persian, but he was too stubborn to do that. Ash confirmed that his Pikachu was strong enough to evolve into a Raichu as well for sure, but it didn't want to have a Thunderstone used on it. It wanted to stay the same, so there was yet another similarity between Ash and Tyson. Tyson then stated that Ash was very lucky to have a Pokemon breeder friend like Brock, after Brock had explained that he was a Pokemon breeder, with Ash confirming this, stating that Brock's knowledge was very much appreciated whenever he battled, and also Brock being a great chef was also very much appreciated, as Brock's food kept Ash sane, and May and Max corroborated this, saying Brock's food made them sane as well. Ash and the gang then asked Tyson if he wanted to hang out some more, and try and find a place to stay until the league, so that Tyson could try some of Brock's cooking, although Tyson replied that even though he was sure Brock was a great chef, he preferred to experience only one piece of food per city he went to, as he basically liked to see new foods as a reward for him earning new gym badges. So apparently he's only ate 8 new foods since he started collecting gym badges, but anyways. After hearing how much Tyson appreciated food, May was amazed and jumped up in excitement, declaring that Tyson was her goddamn soulmate, and she suggested that the two of them should write a book about the best gourmet meals. Tyson was shocked by May's forwardness, with Max confirming that May just really liked food, so she flew off the handle when food was mentioned. Tyson then downed the rest of his food by tilting his bowl back and devouring it, and right as he did this, he looked at the clock on the wall and panicked upon seeing the time. He was on track to be late for something, and informed Ash and the gang that he had to get going immediately, or else he would be late, and immediately rushed outside of the restaurant, leading Ash and the gang to run after him, because they were curious what was going on, and Ash asked Tyson, while they were running, why he was rushing. Before Tyson responded, he first made sure his Meowth was following him, and he was, so Tyson simply further instructed his Meowth to keep up with him, and rush over to the Pokemon Center. So Ash questioned why he was going to the Pokemon Center, leading Tyson to panically reveal, while he was running, that he had to hold a torch. Not able to go into more detail, because of how fast he was running. Although Max immediately knew what Tyson was talking about, declaring that Tyson must have been the one responsible for carrying the legendary torch, which contained the flame of Moltres. You know, the good old torch that was lit at the start of every Pokemon League. It was lit in Kanto and Johto too, if you remember that. Tyson, while still running, managed to confirm that yes, he was a torch runner, so he had to get to the Pokemon Center to collect the sacred Moltres flame torch so he could run with it, leading Brock to reply that he He thought lighting the torch at the start of every Pokemon League was important, since all the regions tended to do it, and Tyson agreed with this as well, saying that in honor of all the other torch runners throughout all the other regions, he wanted to do his absolute best as the Hoenn League torch runner this year. We then cut to just outside the Pokemon Center, where we see none other than the league president and also the president of the Torch Committee, Charles Goodshow, together with the local officer Jenny and the local nurse Joy, and a small crowd of people eagerly awaiting for Tyson and the Flame to arrive and begin its walkthrough to start off the Evergrande Conference. Yeah, that's right, Charles Goodshow was back, baby. We only ever see him during the leagues, but he does return. Goodshow was getting a bit impatient, wondering what the actual fuck was taking Tyson so long to arrive, although Nurse Joy assured Goodshow that Tyson would be at the center soon, while Officer Jenny talked to some of her police officers that were among the crowd, telling them to bring the Flame over in their motorcade, and also look out for any potential thieves to the Flame, because she had heard about incidents in Kanto and Johto where the Flame tried to get stolen by some people. Of course, Team Rocket was spying on this scene from some bushes. Yeah, they weren't spying on Ashton Gang for once, but on Goodshow and everyone else, and they, of course, heard Officer Jenny mention how the torch had been stolen before, and this reminded them of when they stole the torch. Jesse then reminded Meowth and James of the fact that the flame from the torch came from none other than Moltres, and revealed that when Jessie said that they would have a great opportunity to steal something by going to Evergrande, this was actually one of the things that she meant, because she knew that if a league was happening, then they would also obviously have another chance to steal the league torch. Team Rocket all unanimously agreed that they should steal the torch, but they had a bit of a disagreement on what they should do with it. James thought that they should sell it to collectors for some money, although Meowth retorted that they should give it to Giovanni, since Giovanni would likely give them a promotion if they gave the torch to him, and went into a little boss fantasy, imagining plenty of ways that Giovanni could use the flame in his everyday life to help him out, including cooking lunch with the flame, making coffee with it, or warming up his hot tub so that he could relax. Also, Giovanni could use it to power up a motorcycle to drive super fast, and also he could use it to heat up the Team Rocket base. And after Meowth had went through all these suggestions of what Giovanni could use the torch for, Team Rocket, including Wobbuffet, who popped out of his Pokeball, all agreed that giving the torch to Giovanni would be the best option. And they all cheered, set on stealing the flame. Speaking of the flame, just as Officer Jenny had ordered, all the other police officers arrived in their motorcade with the flame, making Goodshow pleased that they were on time, and he was also pleased to see that Tyson was on time, as he showed up as well, apologizing for being a bit late. Although Goodshow clarified that he was just not late by like a couple seconds. Nonetheless, Tyson clarifies that he was ready to start running with the flame, right as the Ash and the gang show up, right behind Tyson and his Meowth. May and Max had never seen Goodshow in their life, at least in person, because Max had heard of him through videos and books, but Ash and Brock recognized Goodshow and greeted him, leading Goodshow to recognize them as well, and happily greet them by name, saying he was glad to see old acquaintances. Max, knowing that Goodshow was the head of the Pokemon League and the Torch Committee, asked how the fuck Brock and Ash knew Goodshow, leading Brock and Ash to mention that they were Torch Runners once as well, and Goodshow especially knew Ash for participating in the Kanto and Johto leagues, making May and Max impressed that Goodshow knew of them, as Max explained to May why Goodshow was significant. However, it was then revealed that Goodshow recognized May as well, making May and Max extremely surprised, as they asked how Goodshow knew May, leading Goodshow to reveal that he knew of May because he watched her performance in the Grand Festival and was very impressed with it, remarking that she did pretty well. Although Goodshow then clarified that he actually recognized both May and Max, since he knew Norman, the gym leader of Petalburg, so obviously he recognized Norman's children, because he basically recognized anyone to do with the league, including gym leaders, so he knew their children as well, and stated that that's one of the reasons why he watched the Grand Festival in the first place, was because he knew May was competing after looking at the registry, and knew that May would likely do good, since she was Norman's child. Max and May were amazed that Goodshow knew about them, but glad that Goodshow knew about how awesome their father was as well. Without further ado, Goodshow, Nurse Joy, and Officer Jenny handed the torch to Tyson, and Tyson started to run with his Meowth beside him, while Ash and the gang cheered him on, and Team Rocket watched from the bushes, especially Meowth, using very high-tech goggles. While the crowd cheered Tyson and his Meowth on, Jessie and James stopped spying, not taking much interest in the Meowth, although Meowth stared at Tyson's Meowth intently. Because the second Meowth saw Tyson's Meowth, he got jealous about how agile Tyson's Meowth was, and how it got to wear those fancy clothes. Basically, Meowth had wanted to wear those fancy human-like clothes, since he wanted to make himself more like a human, as we already knew from his backstory episode. So, the fact that this Meowth got to wear clothes and he didn't pissed him the fuck off. Suddenly, Jessie and James noticed Meowth just slacking off and using the binoculars for no reason, and scolded Meowth for getting distracted, commanding that he come along with them and help out with their plan to steal the flame. Meowth, not wanting to be alone, obliged, and with that, Team Rocket ran off to go steal the flame, trying to catch up to Tyson and his Meowth. In order for Goodshow to get to the stadium of the Evergrande Conference, which was where Tyson and his Meowth were delivering the flame, Officer Jenny offered Charles a quick ride in a limousine, so the two of them were about to hop in. But Goodshow then noticed that Ash and the gang were about to set off for the stadium on foot, desperate to get there to see the torch get lit, or like to see the flame light up in the stadium and all that. So Good Show insisted to Officer Jenny that she should let Ash and the gang come along in the limousine as well. So with that, Jenny and Good Show got in the limousine and quickly drove it up to Ash and the gang and told them to get in, since they were all heading to the same place. And Ash and the gang thanked Charles and Nurse Joy for their help, and they hopped in the limousine, enjoying the ride. Very, very amazed by the ride. And we then see Tyson running along the pathway on foot, lined with a crowd of people eagerly watching, while the limo took a back road to stay out of Tyson's way, but still make it to the center. And right as the limo then went over a hill, Ash and the gang, Good Show, and Officer Jenny got their first look at the stadium for the Evergrande Conference, with Good Show pointing it out, and also pointing out the Pokemon Center next to the stadium, where registration and announcements would take place. Ash and the gang were very amazed by the stadium, which looked like a huge lake with several buildings in the center, including the Pokemon Center and the main stadium. And May remarked that it was utterly beautiful, and Ash confirmed this, saying it looked good even from a distance, with May also adding that it looked kind of like the Grand Festival Stadium. Even though Brock was intrigued by the stadium as well, he told Ash not to get too distracted and reminded him to register at the Pokemon Center, since it was the registration place, as soon as they arrived, and Ash promised to. May had been looking in the League Guide section of the pamphlet that she picked up earlier, and was reading about a whole bunch of attack combinations that previous Evergrande Conference competitors had used, and she took a lot of interest in these, since being a coordinator, coordinators were experts on attack combinations and found them very interesting. Seeing how May was looking through the pamphlet, Good Show thought that May obviously must have been invested in a lot of the shops in the area as well, and informed May and Max that there was a variety of shops and restaurants that were very close to the stadium, which excited Max as he wanted to buy some souvenirs, while May, on the other hand, really wanted to eat, even though she did already, because, she loved food, and apparently the restaurant section of her book mentioned that Evergrande City was known for its delicious strawberry cream pie, and she hoped that one of the restaurants that Good Show mentioned was holding this as one of their options. Max, eventually, even though he was originally annoyed by May's constant obsession with food, suddenly declared that he was hungry and wanted to go get food before shopping for souvenirs first as well, since his stomach started to growl. Ash and Brock sympathized for Max in hearing his growling stomach, so they agreed to get something to eat as soon as they arrived near the stadium as well, and they did, at a pretty good restaurant. And then Ash and the gang went to the Pokemon Center, and Ash greeted Nurse Joy, talking to her as she officially registered Ash into the Evergrande Conference by scanning his Pokedex and all his information, as well as his badges. After signing Ash up, Nurse Joy gave him back his Pokedex, as well as the official, full Evergrande Conference guidebook, different than the little piece of paper that was on May's pamphlet. Max was more intrigued than Ash was at the prospect of a guidebook, and asked eagerly to read it, and Ash agreed. Meanwhile, Ash then got startled as he realized that Brock had seemingly disappeared, and he wondered where he was. And he informed May and Max of this, and as the three of them looked around for him, they spotted him doing exactly what they would have expected him to do, which was trying to flirt with the numerous Nurse Joys and numerous Officer Jennys in the Pokemon Center, leading May to remark that Brock was actually in heaven, although Ash joked that he was far from heaven because Brock was getting rejected by every single Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny that had come from other towns to watch the league. Brock naively thought that he was actually getting somewhere with the Nurse Joys and Officer Jennys, but Max knew he wasn't, so he spared Brock from more misery by dragging him off by the ear. Just then, Ash remembered Morrison. Remember his new rival from, 7 episodes ago at this point? Maybe a bit before that? Anyways, he remembered him, and he asked Nurse Joy to check her registration database to see if Morrison had registered yet, because he was curious if Morrison had managed to get his 8th gym badge in time. But, unfortunately, Ash, as well as May, because she wanted Morrison to compete as well, got worried, as Nurse Joy confirmed that Morrison hadn't registered yet. Ash, in denial, then described Morrison's physical appearance, wondering if maybe Nurse Joy had seen Morrison, but he just hadn't registered yet or something, but unfortunately, Nurse Joy clarified she hadn't seen anyone that looked like Morrison either. Just then, Ash and May's attention was drawn to a screen above the registration desk that showed Tyson with his Meowth holding the torch up proudly, because the two of them were very close to the gate that led into the stadium complex, and after a few seconds, Tyson and his Meowth had entered the gate, and therefore entered the stadium complex. Tyson had completed his Torch Runner journey. The commentator that was speaking over the registration screen stated that Tyson must have prepared long for bearing the torch, since he wasn't tired at all, even after the long run, leading Ash to tell May that Tyson wasn't the only one that prepared, referring to himself. And he decided to then call Professor Oak using one of the Pokemon Center's computers to tell Oak about all the training he had done and how he had made it to the Evergrande Conference. Once Ash had informed Professor Oak of all of this, Oak remarked that he was very happy to hear that Ash had made it to the Evergrande Conference, and suggested that Ash should use some of the Pokemon that Oak currently had stored at his lab of his, all of his old Kanto Pokemon or Johto Pokemon, all of them, but Ash refused. Oak asked Ash if he was positive about this, saying that it would be a good idea for Ash to switch out his Pokemon, since he would have more variety, and he offered to switch out any Pokemon at any stage in the league, not even just during the first round, but Ash still refused, even when Oak mentioned that Ash's older Pokemon were itching to get back into battle. Ash clarified that he totally understood his former Pokemon's want to battle, but he wanted to use only the Pokemon he had encountered in the Hoenn region because he was confident that they were ready for the tough competition ahead. And the entire reason why he came to Hoenn in the first place was to have a fresh start, using only Pikachu as his older Pokemon. And he had stuck by that so far, having not switched out for his older Pokemon once throughout his entire Hoenn journey. aside from when he brought his Bulbasaur back, but that was a bit of a different scenario because he didn't really use it on his team. And the point was, Ash wanted to stick by his original philosophy of only using a new Pokemon that he had encountered in Hoenn, with the exception of Pikachu. Oka literally still tried to convince Ash to use his older Pokemon by showing their Pokeballs in the background and stating that it would be hard for Ash to win without using his strongest Pokemon, such as the ones from his previous journeys that had a lot of experience, and also stated that Ash may have an advantage if he used Pokemon not native to the Hoenn region, when a lot of people at the Hoenn League would be using Hoenn native Pokemon, but Ash stated that he was confident in his Hoenn team and was used to only using them, so he feared that if he used one of his older Pokemon, he may not do as good as he used to with them. Oak was now convinced that Ash had made up his mind and knew that if Ash was so confident in his Hoenn team, then he must be good, and assured Ash that he was now sure he could do good with just his Hoenn team, and reminded Ash that even if he didn't choose to use any of his older Pokemon, he would still support him, no matter what, just like his mother would and all of Pallet Town would. Ash thanked Oak for the support, and told Oak to thank his mother and all of Pallet Town for him as well, and officially signed off the computer. Just then, Ash and May, as well as Max and Brock, who reunited with Ash and May, were all startled when they heard an alarm go off, which signified an emergency, and this was evident as an intercom message then went off, alerting all Officer Jenny's and Nurse Joy's in the center to come out of the center, and they did. Ash and the gang were then startled even more as they heard one of the Officer Jenny's on the intercom, who had ordered all the other Officer Jenny's and Nurse Joy to leave the Pokemon Center, explain that the emergency that was going on was that the flame had been stolen. So, Ash and gang immediately left the Pokemon Center to see what was going on, only to see plenty of police cars all over the place, as well as none other than Tyson and his Meowth. And Ash and gang take the opportunity to ask Tyson what happened, as Tyson confirms that the flame had been stolen and goes into detail about what happened through a flashback. Basically, just as Tyson brought the torch, he was greeted by a whole bunch of Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy. But right as the Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy were about to take the torch and put it on display in the stadium to light the flame, one Officer Jenny caused a distraction by pointing into the distance and saying she thought she saw a real Moltres, and this caused everyone else to look. And while everyone else was distracted by this lie, looking for the Moltres, that Officer Jenny and one of the Nurse Joys ran off with the flame. Tyson then went to go after the runaway Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, but he wasn't fast enough, and they were able to make it out of the area. The flashback then ended as Tyson admitted that he was very angry at himself, that he let the flame get stolen under his watch, but Ash and gang comforted him, saying it wasn't his fault. As for Brock, he was finding it hard to believe that his lovers, Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny, would ever do something that's despicable, such as steal that flame. Just then, Ash and the gang and Tyson heard multiple Officer Jennys on motorcycles trying to chase after the Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy, so they ran after in the same direction, determined to catch the Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny as well. As for how the Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny that had stolen the flame was spotted, you may ask, well, upon getting a closer look from before, the Officer Jenny had realized that the one that took the flame had a deformed face, and the Nurse Joy happened to have shades. In fact, as Ash and the gang and Tyson were running after the Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy, Tyson mentioned that the Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny had those weird features compared to the other ones. Anyways, back to the actual chase. Two Officer Jennys had managed to get a headway on the fleeing Joy and Jenny, the ones that obviously were fake because they looked different, and in order to get in front of them, one of the good Officer Jennys made a dangerous turn by speeding up on her motorcycle, and because of this turn, she was able to get ahead of the false Nurse Joy and false Officer Jenny. Right as Tyson, Ash, and the gang and Nurse Joy caught up, the false Officer Jenny and false Nurse Joy just ran and jumped off a nearby cliff, sending the motorcycle that the two of them had stolen off of the cliff because they had been riding on a motorcycle as well. However, the false Officer Jenny and false Nurse Joy don't go off the cliff. No, they instead make a huge jump using the momentum of the motorcycle to their advantage, jumping into the Meowth balloon, revealing themselves to be none other than Team Rocket as they do their motto, with Jessie dressed up as Officer Jenny and James dressed up as Joy. And also, Chimecho and Wobbuffet joined in on the motto too. Immediately after hearing the motto, Tyson was shocked to see Meowth, who was evil, and also just, hear talking Meowth, while James was recovering from having to speak in a high voice while being a Nurse Joy. Ash then spotted that Wobbuffet had the torch, and he demanded that the torch be returned, but Team Rocket refused, as they just started to fly away in their Meowth balloon. So Ash had Pikachu try to stop them by using a Thunderbolt, but Meowth simply unfolded an umbrella device that he had made, and essentially aimed it at the incoming Thunderbolt, and used it to deflect the Thunderbolt. So the Thunderbolt ends up hitting Pikachu due to the metal stick of the umbrella acting as a lightning rod. Seeing as Pikachu couldn't do anything, Officer Jenny took action by sending out her Blastoise, but before she could, she was stopped by Nurse Joy, who urged her not to do so, as if she did, Blastoise could end up using its water to accidentally put out the flame. While Jenny was thinking about what to do, Tyson heard Team Rocket taunting everyone, basically saying like, oh, we have the flame, you don't, and he sent out his Metagross and had to use a confusion, which allowed Metagross to gain control of Team Rocket's balloon and move it down, leading Meowth to press a button on the Meowth balloon, attempting to turn up the flame burner to increase the Meowth balloon's speed in an attempt to counter the pole, but neither side was making any progress. The burner was preventing Metagross from pulling the balloon down any further, but Team Rocket weren't able to get any higher up either. Ash wanted to help out Tyson, so Good Show asked Ash if he had any really good ice-type Pokemon, and Ash said that he now had a Glalie. So Good Show instructed Ash to freeze Team Rocket, as the ice would stop them, but wouldn't put out the flame. So sure enough, when Ash sent out his Glalie and had to use Ice Beam, things went exactly as Good Show said they would, and since Team Rocket was frozen, but the flame kept on burning. With Team Rocket frozen, Meowth wasn't able to use the burner anymore, so Metagross was able to pull the balloon down close enough for Ash to be able to jump into the basket and grab the flame. But before he could actually take the flame away, Team Rocket managed to break out of the ice and wrestled Ash for the flame. As a result of the angry wrestling, both Ash and Team Rocket ended up dropping the flame, and it fell out of the Meowth balloon. So Jesse desperately threw Meowth out of the Meowth balloon to go catch it. He did manage to grab it after some desperate mid-air falling, but he realizes that he was still falling and going straight towards the ocean, and started to panic and be super scared because of this. But just then, Tyson ordered his Meowth to save the flame, having it jump up into the air and grab the flame from Team Rocket's Meowth in midair, kicking Team Rocket's Meowth in the process. So, while Ash was still wrestling with Team Rocket in the Meowth balloon, Tyson's Meowth managed to safely land on the ground on his 2 feet and safely place the flame on the ground. Just then, Tyson's Meowth speaks to Team Rocket's Meowth, which Meowth interprets as Tyson's Meowth insulting him by calling him pathetic, which angers Team Rocket's Meowth, leading him to call Tyson's Meowth someone with a cowboy complex because of his outfit. This escalates into a full-blown argument while Team Rocket cheered Meowth on and taunted Ash, still fighting him, and eventually Tyson's Meowth dares Team Rocket's Meowth to take the torch from him. This surprised Team Rocket's Meowth a little bit, but it also angered him immensely at the fact that Tyson's Meowth thought that he could taunt him like that, so Team Rocket's Meowth got ready to attack with a Fury Swipes, but unfortunately for Team Rocket's Meowth, he missed. Meowth then goes in for a second Fury Swipes, but Tyson's Meowth was able to get an attack off first, and while Meowth was shocked by this, Tyson's Meowth used Iron Tail to blast Team Rocket's Meowth off, as he yelled out that he was not done yet, even though he was fucking gone. He was desperate to get revenge, but he couldn't have it. That much was obvious. Meanwhile, Ash was still in the balloon, fighting Team Rocket, but Tyson then instructs Ash to jump out of the Meowth balloon. Ash was hesitant, but he did, and Tyson put a plan into action to save Ash, having his Metagross use Confusion on Ash to basically levitate him and help lower Ash to the ground slowly. Once Ash was on the ground, Tyson proceeded to have Meowth use a Thunderbolt to blow up the Meowth balloon and send Team Rocket blasting off. And as Jesse and James blasted off, along with Wobbuffet and Chimecho, they were all in shock that a Meowth could use fucking Thunderbolt. And they were surely pissed off about it. Anyways, with Team Rocket gone and the flame recovered, Ash and the gang, Tyson and Tyson's Meowth gave the flame to Good Show back at the Pokemon Center, and Good Show then placed it on a pedestal, thanking Ash and Tyson for their work in protecting the flame, telling them that if they didn't rescue the flame, then the Evergrande Conference wouldn't have been able to start. Good Show also commends Ash and Tyson's bravery and quick thinking, and informed Ash and Tyson that the Evergrande Conference would be starting tomorrow, and wishes both Ash and Tyson good luck in it, as do May, Max, and Brock. The episode then ends with Tyson admitting that Ash was a great trainer and was looking forward to facing him. Ash admitted that he felt the same way about Tyson, and they promised to have a great battle that they would never forget, and also both do their best in the overall tournament.